Hello, I'm Sarat Sreepathi. I'm a computer scientist at Oak Ridge National Laboratory. Today I'm going to present our work on E3SM Pathfinding on Fugaku. This work is collaborative with Oksana, Guba, and Mark Taylor at Sandia National Laboratories. So before I begin, I would like to introduce the E3SM project to you. This is US Department of Energy's flagship climate modeling effort. Um, this is a large collaboration between 8 DOE labs, 12 universities, spread across about 100 individuals counting ecosystem projects. So a typical global climate model has many components. The most important computational components are atmosphere and ocean, followed by land, ice, and they're all interconnected through and communicate with each other through a coupler. So essentially, the key computational goal for E3SM is to ensure that it will effectively utilize the exascale architectures and pre-exascale and exascale architectures. And the science questions that we are interested in investigating are relevant to the energy domain, so relevant to the DOE's mission. So this is a large open source effort, and there are links there if you're interested in looking at further details. Specifically in this work, we are looking at the atmospheric component and within that specifically the dynamical core. We have a benchmark configuration uh, uh, with the atmospheric dynamical core where it solves primitive equations for atmosphere where there is linear transport of 40 species. So the domain decomposition within the atmospheric component is, horizontal grade latitude, longitude, and then there is vertical grade for height. So we have 72 vertical levels in this configuration, and computationally speaking, there are two versions. So there is a Fortran version with OpenMP for parallelism, and then there is a C++ version which utilizes the Kokkos performance portability framework for targeting both CPU and GPU architectures. So most of you are familiar with the Fugaku supercomputer. So this is presently the #1 machine in the world, located at the Riken Center for Computational Science. The key characteristics of the architecture, it's a ARM 64-bit, one of the largest deployments out there, with 512-bit SVE vector extensions support. It has high bandwidth memory, and the most important advantage is it's all in a low power envelope. So uh, for further details, you know where to look up. So specifically for our workload, we we have been following this benchmark to evaluate hardware architectures and trends. So we have been collecting data on a variety of CPU and GPU architectures from around 2012. Uh, so the graph on the right shows an efficiency metric normalized by power. So basically, this is the number of element remap time steps per watt. So the expression is derived by number of spectral elements times number of time steps divided by the main loop timer. Uh, and we are using the TDP of different architectures as a proxy. So with all the caveats that TDP brings, that is an approximate estimate for the performance per watt metric. So the metric shows, on the x-axis you have the spectral elements and the y-axis is the efficiency metric. Just to highlight, the top red line is the Volta V100 GPU, and then the yellow lines are KNL, and the pink line is the A64FX here. So this is a single node benchmark. Essentially, we are trying to understand how these architectures fare in terms of performance per power. These are still preliminary results on the A64FX. So take them. That's the caveat here. Uh, the broader trends from this figure that we can identify are the slow, steady performance gains from CPU nodes. So we have Skylake, Haswell's. So you can still see the steady improvement of the CPU nodes. And then for the GPU nodes, you actually get a pretty big performance leap, but that's only at the high workload regime. So number of spectral elements, when it's quite high, that's when you derive the maximum benefit from the GPU. So this kind of data helps us figure out what configurations are suitable for running on large GPU, GPU-based machines like Summit at Oak Ridge, and like what problem configurations and node counts are suitable. Specifically for the A64FX here, the results I'm showing are using the GNU Fortran version and plain MPI using 48 ranks. So we have embarked on a very detailed compiler evaluation using both testbeds and Fugaku. So this is just briefly summarizing what we found. So Fujitsu compilers were slower than GNU for Fortran, which was a bit unexpected because you expect the vendor compilers to outperform. So there may still be like additional options that we could try, and this may change. So, but as it stands, GNU Fortran is twice as fast as Fujitsu Fortran for us. And the C++ version, C++ compiler, it does have some runtime issues, so we're not really there are accuracy issues with the C++ runtime there. So yeah, so Fortran is the and overall Fortran actually outperformed our C++ version of the benchmark here. And with respect to optimization levels, we noticed that OFAST, which enables fast math and few other optimizations, it actually resulted in a big boost for our workloads. So depending on your case, where you need to look at the precision guarantees for your code, but for us that worked out. So we have been looking at so the benchmark itself has the programmability is we can do on node OpenMP a lot more threads, but currently the hybrid mode performance is not optimal. So we're still looking into that. Next up, we have looked at the power and performance trade-offs on Fugaku. So Fugaku, there is a provision of a power API, so you can actually measure the power used by your application during particular phases. So we have collected data using the power API for the Fortran version of the benchmark, which was built by the GNU compiler. So we have collected data for 3 power modes. Essentially, the normal power mode, which pegs the frequency at 2 gigahertz. There is a boost mode where you can utilize 2.2 gigahertz frequency, and then there is a eco mode, which is 2 gigahertz but with a eco state flag on. So that allows the chip to power down certain elements when they are not being utilized. So the y-axis here is the efficiency metric similar to the plot that I have shown you before. But in this case, we are normalizing by the actual power measured on Fugaku compute node rather than just the TDP. So higher is better. So x-axis is again workload. So we see that the normal and boost nodes, they kind of overlap on top of each other. So basically, you higher power, you get slightly higher performance, but performance per watt is identical. But the eco mode, you actually derive a bit more. You actually have a benefit from using the eco mode for our workload. So this was kind of interesting. So this is one of the few platforms where you can actually get power information is available, and you can correlate with your workload too. So there is a lot of ongoing work that we are still embarking on. So we know that there is room for improvement in the memory bandwidth utilization for our case. We are also looking into loop splitting. So it's a kind of a known issue that some of the larger loops need to be split to make use of to better use vectorization as well as the limited number of out of order resources on the A64FX. So as part of it, I mean, we also looked at the stream memory bandwidth benchmark to try to understand what are the kind of optimal both compiler options, and environmental settings, so that we can utilize some of the lessons learned for our application. So the graph here is showing the triad kernel using Fujitsu compilers on Fugaku. The best bandwidth is achieved using 48 threads, and it's about 856 Gbps. So that's quite a bit of memory bandwidth that is available. But you need a lot of compiler options, the right incantation to get the optimal performance. So this is with the Fujitsu, but in our workload, we noticed that Fujitsu was uh, twice or half as fast as GNU. So we would like to investigate with a more detailed kernel level analysis. So pick a couple of kernels from our application, and that's what we are working on. So try to see what kind of compiler options will enable better memory throughput. So there is a lot of high sensitivity to NUMA effects. So there is the A64FX architecture itself is divided into 4 core memory groups. So uh, you need to be extra careful about how do you do placement and affinity. So we have also noticed a big benefit from demand paging when you're straddling those core memory groups. So these are lessons learned. We are still trying to improve the application, and these are preliminary results. During our initial pathfinding work, we ran into a few issues, and we are thankful for the community uh, where where we are able to kind of solve these problems. So CMake was one of those issues, which is, I mean, it's a simple one where you are doing a build configuration, but Fujitsu compilers and math libraries are not recognized. So we have worked with Kitware, ARM, and Fujitsu folks to add support here. So Kitware, and then finally a official patch from Fujitsu is in there now. So this enables a lot of applications, all CMake based applications. So the initial test beds that are available at Sandia and Oak Ridge, they were quite helpful in figuring out compiler options, evaluating the various compilers, both ARM, GNU, and Fujitsu. For this workload, GNU Fortran was the best performance so far. Finally, I would like to acknowledge the support of the DOE-MEXT collaboration, which made all this possible. ECP and E3SM projects for the funding, and computational resources for RIKE and Oak Ridge and Sandia. So there is still a lot of work to be done in optimizing the application, but we're happy to share the initial pathfinding results, and I'm happy to take any questions. So please feel free to contact me at sarat@ornl.gov. Thanks. Thank you.